Hey everybody, welcome back. Yes, welcome back to another episode of the M&M podcast. What?
Nothing, it's just the way I sang. That was so weird. Keep going.
Okay, I'm your host Manasi.
And I'm Meher.
And today's episode is another episode in our series, Just the Facts.
Mm-hmm.
If you are new here, or, we haven't really talked too much about what Just the Facts is.
Yeah.
So, basically, this whole series is focused around delivering a very factual point of view in, how we deliver our information. Because we know that a lot of news sources have a lot of political bias. And, overall, in general, it's just, you really need to seek out information to understand things from different perspectives. So...
Yeah. No, because if you've seen our gun laws episodes or some of those, you'll notice that they're significantly shorter. And the reason that they are shorter is because instead of, elaborating on our positions and going into, the nitty-gritty of how we feel, it's sort of just giving you, hey, this is the facts. You take it, make of it what you want. And that's kind of what we'd like to, do with
this series.
This series.
And the most important thing is, just like Meher said, make your own opinion. Make of it what you will, knowing your facts and your take on how it is.
Yeah, because fun fact, you guys, your TikTok algorithm is not going to show two sides of a story.
It's not.
It's going to show one.
Exactly.
If you like a video that says one, that's the opinion you're stuck with.
Same thing with the news sources. Always read different news sources and see what they say. Yeah. Okay, anyways. This episode is all about Trump's indictment. Is that how you pronounce it?
I keep saying indicament.
I don't think
predicament. Indicament.
We made a whole script and we don't know how to say the word.
Indictment?
Indictment. Okay, it's all about Trump's indictment, and we are gonna actually go way back in time, talk about how he became president, how he gained his popularity, and what is currently happening.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in, shall we? So, basically, I don't think there's a single person that doesn't know who Trump is, because he, the years of 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, the years of 2020 to, 2020...
No, 2016 to 2020.
2016 to 2020.
2020 to 4 was Biden.
Yeah. 2016 to, 2020-ish was just dominated by his presidency, his decisions, and we kind of want to just start by going into the pros and cons of his presidency before we get into all of the stuff about where he is now and how we got to the indictment.
Yeah. We changed it up.
We will start from before he got elected.
Yes, we're going to talk about how he got there. Basically, bro is a businessman. That is his biggest deal. That's his thing. He made a lot of money.
Bro is loaded.
He's a good businessman.
He got money, bro. I'm going to be so honest,
Yeah, he was involved in hotels, casinos, airlines, golf courses, office buildings. He even had a 14-season-long TV show called The Apprentice, and that show even got spin-offs. And then he also owned beauty pageants like Miss USA, Miss America.
Yeah.
And then he also owned a modeling agency. And then in 1990s or so, he got broke because economic recession and real estate market went down. And then he made a comeback, which was insane. So... that's his background. He is really good at business, and that also ended up being one of his biggest appeals.
Yeah, is the fact that he can sort of bring up the economy was a reason that a lot of the Trump supporters were like, yo, this is what we want, is an economy focused thing. Also, side note, The Apprentice was low key an era. Okay, so basic. I don't know. Again, we addressed the fact that a big reason for his appeal is his business background. So his campaign for his presidency was all about make America great again. So his position sort of were speaking against being politically correct and like not cancel culture.
It's all of like saying things just to appeal to a public.
Yeah.
His whole reputation was that he was very like outspoken. He said
what he said whatever he was thinking. Which you could take either as a good thing or a bad thing.
And I mean,
it can go both ways.
It can go both ways.
Because I feel like he
was also against like government lobbyists.
Yeah.
Those are people who attempt to like sway people in political things, like judges, politicians.
Yeah.
So like,
and during his election, he was sort of a very controversial figure. And the reason for that is usually during presidential elections, you're trying to be very charismatic. You're trying to be like you're not trying to sort of there's not many candidates who delve deep into the policies that they're going to implement. They're trying to be as safe as possible. Yeah. Trump, however, was very much like, I'm gonna ban immigration from XXYZ countries. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do that. And a lot of people took offense to it.
But a lot of people also loved him.
So let's talk about his presidency.
So one of the biggest things was the Space Force. If you remember, the whole point of the Space Force was like a way to protect American assets in space. International Space Station, for example, and it was like considered as an assist to the military. Mm-hmm. He also made reforms to the tax code to boost the economy, basically reducing taxes. This helped the middle class. But while this whole thing was going on, Republicans set very hefty goals for it, which were not met, but it still did have a benefit, so that's something to consider. Mm-hmm. Another thing he did was he made several reforms to the criminal justice system. Like, he made punishments a lot more humane for criminals and their families, like keeping them within close distance. And also, he reduced solitary confinement for juveniles. And finally, one more thing that he did was he carried out raids which ended with the death of the ISIS leader and caused losses for their territories.
Mm-hmm. So as for the cons of his presidency, let's start with the sort of immigration policy that he had. He banned travel and expanded visa restrictions on countries across the Middle East, labeling it as sort of a Muslim ban. Okay, anyways, and he also banned visa restrictions for North Korea, Venezuela, and China during COVID-19, and these bans are now lifted, and this was bad because it also caused a rise in hate crimes against Asian American communities during COVID.
His logic was basically because during COVID, he believed that these places had like a lot of numbers of cases and stuff.
And so he was just like, yeah. And he called Corona like the China virus or whatever, and that caused a lot of people to be like, oh, Chinese people are bad or something along those lines. And
keep going.
Okay. And along with this, there was also an increase in police brutality. And this all ties into the Black Lives Matter movement, but basically, during the death of George Floyd, he sort of focused more on like villainizing the riots against Black Lives Matter, and sort of defended the police in that situation. And he made immigration really difficult for refugees, so he wanted to build a wall between Mexico and the USA, which resulted in a lot of family separations for people, who were on the border and caught by ICE. And this caused in a lot of death of migrant children as well. And he got rid of Obamacare, which made healthcare a lot more accessible for a lot of people. And because of that, a lot of people lost their health insurance, and he did not follow through on that promise for insurance after that. He also what was the word that we were going to say? He incited a Capitol riot because he believed the elections were rigged after Biden got into office, and he sort of refused to accept the fact that he lost the election. And so what that caused is a lot of his supporters going to the Capitol and rioting. He also made the national debt worse. And although it's important to acknowledge that the national debt gets worse with each presidency, it did get exponentially worse with him specifically. Mm-hmm. And then to all of the mass shootings, like El Paso and Dayton mass shootings, he insisted that it was mental illness that pulled the trigger, not the gun, but he rolled back on an era regulation
Yes.
that would have made it harder for people with mental illness to buy guns. So that was his little era.
Now, it is important to consider, like, within the pros and the cons, each of the topics that we mentioned are a lot more nuanced. And if any of them, like, stick out to you as something that you don't know, please do look further into it. Because all the pros had people against them and had valid reasons on both sides for why they're good and bad.
Mhm.
Same thing with the cons.
And another thing is also, these are very heavy topics.
Very,
very heavy topics. We've just briefly touched on them in one sentence, and that is not enough at all.
Exactly.
To, explain the length of
Sorry,
it.
my parents are texting when to pick up, so.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we know who he was and everything that he did during his presidency, let's look at
The social effect?
the social effect, yeah. So this whole time, there was a lot of polarized politics.
Mm-hmm.
And this didn't really start or end with him. This kind of always has been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with Trump's era, it kind of really magnified. It became fully the liberal Democrats versus the conservative Republicans, and then both sides with their extremists and centralists mocking each other.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, it just became a big competition between blue and red.
And yeah, and you can honestly see this in something I found really interesting is the fact that our generation is one of the generations that's most involved in politics. And the big reason for that is generations before us, they didn't really have to sort of worry about politics per se, because it wasn't something that was in such a heavy spotlight. Like, yes,
Right.
it was always in the spotlight, but during this era, when we open the news, it's always one side attacking the other, or some big debate happening where it gets really heated and argumentative. And because of that, everyone is sort of forced to take sides, even younger adults. And there's always that pressure to sort of chase and support a certain political agenda.
And this is why, like, going back to one of our big reasons for this segment, or like this series, is that you, as well, most of our audience are like young adults or people our age. As we become older and we get started to get involved in like politics, voting, all of this stuff, it is so important that we put aside political bias and approach each issue from a very like open-minded mindset, and like genuinely try to see both perspectives and try to like come to reason and then come to your own opinion on what you think should happen. All right, now it's time for the tea, the indictment.
The tea. This is drama. This is extreme drama. So basically, the indictment kind of explained is Trump paid money to this certain actress to apparently keep their 2000s affair down low, because bro was trying to win the presidency, so people didn't need to know about that, right? Because then he seems like, yeah. And hush money technically isn't illegal, but the thing is he used campaign funds. So that technically is trying to, not sway the results of the election by withholding certain information about where these funds are going. And so that's what got him into sort of like the indictment, like the criminal side of things. Now, while this was happening, there was a big tea, because apparently bro took boxes of like federal documents to his house, and the thing with that is it's federal documents and evidence that should be, in the, what is it called? In the place where they keep the White.
I don't think it's the White House.
Not the White House.
It's
the federal archives. It should be in the federal archives, because that is classified that's heavily classified documents, and he isn't president anymore, so he should not have access to those certain documents. And there have been voice recordings of him that have been leaked, of him like showing off these classified documents to other people,
and literally admitting the fact that like he knows he shouldn't have them, but it's like secret documents.
But it's like secret documents. And so yeah, that's what sort of got him into the
allegations also stacked up a lot.
37 federal charges against him right now.
And as the whole thing went on, like the accusations kept stacking up. Like 37 federal charges, including obstruction, unlawful retention, like all this Meher explained. And things are still unfolding. So check the news, check different news sources.
Check the news.
Also, by the time we edit and upload this, more stuff could have happened, which we might include in the description and stuff. But yes, Trump's biggest defense to all of this mostly is like denying all of this, like the fact that it didn't happen, and
but also bro was caught on camera, so that's another thing. That's just fact,
right? How do we conclude?
Okay, she just said to check the news, and by check the news
we don't mean
Twitter.
We also don't mean just your preferred news source.
Yes. Okay.
Check different news sources.
Definitely. So you can actually
see their leaning.
Yes. Yeah. There is a chart you can search up called news sources and their biases.
Media bias.
Yeah.
All sides.
Yeah. All sides media bias, and there is a way to sort of look at the media bias chart.
Yeah. There's a thing called go pull that up. And so you can this website, All Sides, it ranks them by like media bias and like accuracy and all that stuff. So look in that and just read through different news sources, and I promise you it is less hefty than it seems.
Yeah. And another thing is, it's okay to watch these mainstream news sources, like CNN is on one side and Fox is on. Both of those are fairly biased. It is okay to look at both of those, but it's also important to also look at the unbiased ones so you can kind of get the different perspectives, but also the main facts, because these are, if you go out to vote, like all of you young people, if you're around our age, you will be able to vote by next year. It's important that you're looking at these issues instead of just following
the trend, exactly.
The trend, or like something one person side is saying or something another side is saying, because both sides are heavily skewed. So you gotta look at the facts
and be very open-minded.
Yeah. Look at the data too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because people will say that, oh, so much of this happened, but if you look at the data, it may not be that much. Or the other way around. People can be denying things, but really there was something serious that happened.
Right, because political strategy really is causing hysteria over an issue just so that people get worked up. Like causing hysteria over an issue just so people get worked up.
Or covering facts.
Yeah, covering facts.
Because
withholding certain amount of information.
Exactly, because it's like lying through omission, you know?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, in order for you to have political success, you want to get a lot of public support. And oftentimes, people may do that by not giving you the full picture.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, we're going to summarize this by saying, this is just a very high overview just to get you caught up in case you weren't. Keep following the news, keep checking things out, and make sure to be open-minded and rely on just the facts.
Hey!
That
went hard. Rely on just the facts. Just the facts.
Anyways, thank you for watching this episode. Until next time.
Bye for now.
Also, I improvised until next time, bye for now the first time too. Do you remember that?
Yeah. God damn. Bro, the creativity. Creativity.
Bye.
Bye.
You can't zoom in selfie mode.
Oh, I can't?
No. You can't even flip your camera on iPhones. Oh.
Did I ask? Did I ask? Be Real did not go off. I'm sorry.